So, hello everybody. Since it's always a bit complicated to explain everything in detail in a Thingiverse post, I thought I'd just make this little video here to show you the Calimero frame. So, you might already know the Calimero HD, which is this one. This was a frame I initially designed for the Cadex Turtle V2 HD camera, and what I've done now with the regular Calimero is an adaptation of this frame for normal toothpick style builds. So while the HD version only had 20 by 20 mounts for the Cadex board, and this little middle plate here as an adapter between the 20 by 20 mount and the whoop style boards, this new Calimero frame has pretty much all the mounting options you could want. So there is a 16 by 16 mounting pattern. You have 20 by 20 and whoop style, so that's 25.4 or 25.5. This frame also has this little hole here, so you can access the USB port here if you use a whoop style board. If you use a 16 by 16, this lends itself quite well to put the LiPo cable through it. So what do you need to print to build a Calimero? So what you need is, first of all, of course, the frame. Oh, and I forgot to mention the motor mounts. So this fits pretty much anything that has a 9mm motor pattern, so 3-hole or 4-hole. So like these Amax or these Racer Stars, this all fits. The frame comes in at around about 10 grams. I can show that to you really quick here. So 10 grams compared to a carbon frame, this is actually not too bad. 2.5 grams heavier, so this is actually okay. You need to make the printed frame always a little bit heavier because obviously most 3D printing materials aren't as strong as carbon, so you need to add this little extra beef to the frame so that it holds up. Good, so now if we're building a regular Calimero frame, there's basically 2 ways to go. You can use a whoop style board like this one with a little pod on top. This is, in my opinion, the cleanest way to build it. Or you can use a 16 by 16 stack. Of course, the advantage of a 16 by 16 stack is that you don't have anything on one board. If the ESC burns out, you can change it without any problems. So it just depends on what you prefer. So what you need to print for a whoop style board build is of course the frame. That one is printed out of PETG, Saint Smart PETG, which works pretty well. It's got a little bit of flex, which is cool because it helps simply to dampen crashes and also vibration, so this works pretty well. What also works well is simply using PLA and heat treating it. So what I do, I printed, so this is my Microblivion frame, I printed out of PLA. So I print it, leave it on the hot bed at 80 degrees Celsius for half an hour, put something on top of it to have sort of, to cover it up, to have like a little oven where it is heat treated. It relieves the tension in the material and makes it a lot stronger. But for now, my preferred material is the Saint Smart PETG. So you need to print the frame. I recommend using 100% infill. You can of course reduce the weight if you reduce the infill, but really I'm not sure if this is a good idea. This frame is more or less built with 100% infill in mind. So you need to print this out of whatever material you choose, and then you need to print the TPU parts. So TPU parts, you need to print your pod. I really recommend you need to print this out of some flexible material. TPU is obviously the standard and the best here. Print this little pod for the 14mm camera. if you have a Cadex EOS 2 or a Runcam Nano 2 or the new Runcam Racer Nano, these will fit perfectly here. You can also fit the VTX inside. That's what I did here with the TBS Unify Nano. And then you need to print a second thing, which is the little battery pad here. What does this do? Simply goes on the 16 by 16 mounting pattern here, so you can fit your little battery strap. If you don't want to use a battery strap or you don't have one, rubber band is just fine. Goes underneath, holds it in place. Perfect to fix your battery. And another thing I'd recommend for these whoop style board builds, I have the Crazy BF4 I think Pro or something with the integrated FreeSky receiver. That receiver sucks. It's completely useless. I'd fail safes being like 10 meters away from myself. So I have rebuilt this frame here actually with it's a FreeSky RXSR, just a regular FreeSky receiver. Many people use Crossfire. I do have Crossfire on my radio, but I don't see why I would use this on such a micro. I'm really not going that far away. So yeah, this is my build with the whoop style board. It's pretty close to what Bob Rugi, also known as Kebab FPV, recommends. So it's got the 1103 MX motors, 7500 kV, and the Crazy V board. I know there have been apparently lately a lot of Crazy V boards breaking. I never had any issue with this one. There is actually a lot hanging on the 5-volt regulator here. This is the only thing where I'm wondering if this could cause any issues. So I have the receiver, the VTX, the camera, all hooked up to the 5-volt. So what I did to be sure, I added a little, actually not that little, 1000 microfarad 10-volt capacitor here on the XT30 to reduce electrical noise, and hopefully the 5-volt regulator will last. So far it worked pretty well. I had no issues with it. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention what you also need is of course a set of screws. So since this is a little bit thicker than a carbon frame, so if you see here it's roughly 5 millimeters thick, you will need some slightly longer screws. The nice thing is you need 7 millimeter screws, and these most of the time come with this micro props. So just use these little prop screws on your motor and it will work fine. Another thing you need is M2 by 12 screws. These ones here to fix the pot, and just some small screws here. I think these are 3 or 4 millimeters, fine for the lipo pad. So what else do we have? This is the other build. This is with the 16 by 16 stack. I think it's quite interesting. I mean, these are very similar, but they look completely different. So what I have built here is a very minimalistic mount for the camera. I was playing around with some pods for 16 by 16 stacks, but they just tend to look really clumsy if you want to fit the stack inside. They get kind of high. So really I couldn't figure out any way that I liked, so I thought I'd just make these very simple TPU parts here. So you can print these if you do a 16 by 16 style build. These are actually just flat. You print them, stick them here, so also replaces the screws here for the stack, or the nuts in this case. Put them on there, bend them a little bit, and they hold the camera in place. So what I did, I have a small VTX here. This is also roughly, this is just old parts that I'm laying around, but this is roughly the size of a TBS Nano or Nano 32 VTX. So you can just stick this with some hot glue to the back of the camera. It will hold fine. on the bench, when the VTX gets really hot, the hot glue tends to get a little bit soft, but I never had any issues when flying. Something new and optional is this little camera protection here. I mean, you don't have to use this, but the camera is pretty exposed. If you don't, this is I guess fine if you're flying in a park on grass and not on concrete. If you hit the camera on concrete, obviously you will break it. So this is actually this part. It comes in this generic shape, and then you can just get creative. Cut yourself a little fin like this or do something else. Curious to see what you guys come up with. And then this fits on the camera, just like that. I tried it and it fits on the Caddx EOS camera. It fits on the Runcam Nano 2. I don't know yet if it fits on a Runcam Racer Nano. I haven't tried it yet. It's on the way from Banggood. I get one. See if it fits. But so far, fits for these two cameras. Yeah, and that's about it. So hope you guys enjoy the frame. Have fun printing it. And take care.